Hola, I'm here with UK Gaming Media Network on behalf of Unboxed Board Game Blog. Got my
Got you on.
This is Paul from CGE, and we're looking at the first expansion to Dungeon Lords.
Yes, so they've got, Roger's been designing an expansion for Dungeon Lords, which is coming out this year. It's lots of little bits of expansions all in one, but you need to use them all. It isn't one where you can just use certain bits. No, use all of them. So for people who already like Dungeon Lords, this is adding a little bit extra. The first thing is the original Dungeon Lords was divided into 2 years, with each year being divided into 4 seasons. Well, that's not enough. So there's now a 5th season. Okay, so it's basically extended the length of the game. There are now 5 seasons in a year.
Okay.
And that takes it. The other thing, another little bit, is that there's now 2 paladins instead of 1.
Okay.
So before there just used to be, he's the big nasty one. So in this expansion, there's a lot more opportunities to gain evil points.
Yeah.
So it's likely that 2 people will cross the line. So there's now 2 paladins. So there's a weaker one than before and a tougher one than before. So you've got that as well.
So they're entirely new. There's also the original is not used anymore.
The original is not used, so these 2 new ones replace the original.
Yeah.
There's new traps, so Darts of Madness, Black Hole. These are just prototype versions. Yeah, there's new traps, so that just adds to the trap pile. There are new combat cards, so new spells as well. There's a few new ones of them. There are new monsters as well. So again, this is prototype artwork. You've got a cockatrice, you've got a beholder, and you've got something that looks a little bit Cthulhu-like. So there are new monsters that have new cool. This one's got a poison attack. The evil eye is quite good because what he does is he pull one of the adventurers from the back of the party to the front of the party and then hit him. So the new monsters do cool things. One of the main things with the game, though, is these new 8 action space tiles. So in the game, you have these 8 different actions that the players will be doing every turn. Well, what happens now, they change. So in round 1, you will reveal this.
Okay.
And in round 2, this goes on the board, replacing that space.
Okay. And
only for that turn.
Are they coloured so that you can?
So you can see which one goes in. So that's the replacement for that one. And then you would reveal that one. And then in round 3, that one would go, and that one would come on. So all of a sudden...
So you're planning ahead as well?
You're planning ahead, thinking, because these are all slightly improved versions of what's on there.
Right, okay.
So it means that there is more temptation for players to go for it. And when we've played it, there was too much temptation, which meant you ended up conflicting.
Right, okay.
But these are all different, and they all do different things. So there are various things you can now do. This one is foreign digging specialist. So you get some imps from another country, and they dig these special corridors. Okay. So they're better than normal corridors, and these give all sorts of different bonuses. So these only come out with this tile here. One of them allows you to recruit improved monsters, so extra cruel monsters or extra large monsters. So basically improved versions of the monsters. There are new rooms as well. Right, another thing to explain is adventurers. Right, before you had the 4 different adventurer types. You've now got a new one. You've now got the bard.
Right.
Okay, now the bard comes in, and what the bard does is he goes to the back of the party and sings songs of encouragement. And because there are now 5 rounds, each player now gets a new player board that goes over the old one. You can now have 4 adventurers and the paladin. So the bard goes to the back of the party, and what he does is he sings these encouraging songs, and he basically can protect the party members at the front. What you do is you put counters on which protect them from taking damage. Right. Now, the bard's really strong, and if you've got a couple of them, it means that the party is really, really buff with this protectiveness. But as soon as a member dies, then the bard's songs of encouragement aren't really that encouraging, because the guy at the front saying, well, what about Dave? He's dead. So they get weaker as the party diminishes in size. They get weaker. So that's the new character. And the final thing is the pets, which I've forgotten to dig out. So the pets from Dungeon Pets have now made it into Dungeon Lords.
As familiars?
Yeah. What happens is all of the 20 pets, probably saying there was only 18 in my game, but there's 2 bonus ones coming out in Spielbox magazine. So each player at the start of the game will draw a few of these pets, and there's a bit of a draft. But basically you get these pets, and they've all got a unique ability which sort of matches the nature of the character. And you can keep the pet, and he's worth a point at the end of the game, or you can use him for his ability.
Right.
Okay.
So he's worth 1 point. Or
1 point at the end of the game,
ability.
or a one-off ability at the end of the game. And all the pets, they all do different things.
And always to gain additional pets?
Yeah. One of the spaces, one of these new action spaces is here, which replaces that one, which is the pet shop.
Okay.
So if you go there, you can gain additional pets.
Cool.
So there's all kinds of new fancy bits. This one I particularly like, because what happens is you actually go to the city and you steal some money, but then you blame it on other people. So all the other players gain a point of evil instead of you. And if you go here, you trash the university. So you get to look at a spell, but you blame it on the others. So they all gain a point of evil. This one here allows you to put additional traps into a space ahead of time. So it means that when the actual fight takes place in the room, there could be 2 traps, one that you've pre-installed and the one that you put on as well. So yeah, all kinds of cool new stuff with it.
What does it do to the complexity level?
I would say, it increases the complexity level because every time one of these comes out, you need to explain what that does. So Dungeon Lords is already quite a meaty game.
Yeah, that's what I was going.
So it probably adds about another 10-15%. I think for the people who really like Dungeon Lords, I think the expansion is a must buy. If you already like Dungeon Lords, this is
try
more of
the
the same.
base game.
Yeah, I would be reluctant in teaching somebody new to start with all the other bits, because there's quite a lot of extra stuff going on.
How much extra space did it take from the table?
Not much, because this player board gets an extra one. The player's player board just gets this added on here. So yeah, it takes up a little bit more space on board, but not too much. Most things just replace existing things that are already there.
Is that everything? Yeah.
I think that's everything. I've covered the cards, I've covered the paladins, I've covered all, as I say, there's all sorts of new extra rooms that all do different things.
A lot to get through today.
Yeah.
Three
games
from
CGE,
CGE. So the next game is...
Right.
Okay. So, tell me.
Yeah, it's, the working title is Mayan Ages, but they are considering other titles for the game. It's a worker placement, resource management type game. Now, we've all seen that lots before, so what's different about this one? What's different is this gear mechanism, okay? Which, when they told me about it, I thought that it was going to be quite tricky to think, oh, okay, if I rotate that, I'm going to have to work out in my head what's going to happen to the board, and I didn't think I'd be able to do it. And as it is, it's really easy. The gameplay is very, very simple. In your turn, you start with three workers, unless it's a 2-player game. You can get more as the game goes on. But what happens is, on your turn, you can either place workers or take them off the board. That's it.
Where do you place workers?
You place them on these circles.
Right.
Okay? Now, you choose which of the gears you want to place on. You always go to the lowest spot. So this is the 0 spot, so you would go there.
Okay.
If you wanted to, you could just place the 1. Or you could place more. Okay? But the more you place, the more expensive it is.
Okay.
Corn is the currency within the game, and it's also the food. You need to feed your villagers.
Okay, so how much do you need to feed the villagers?
It's 2 corn.
End of a turn, is it?
Every time there is a harvest,
okay.
that you need to feed your villagers. So in your turn, you could place 1 there, for example, and maybe 1 there. Okay. And that would cost you 1 extra corn, in addition to the cost of the spaces, which was both 0.
Right.
The next player would come along, and let's say he decides to place 3, and let's say he decides to go there and there and there. So he would pay 1, 2, 3, and an extra 1 because he placed, sorry, an extra 3 because he placed 3 workers.
So the cost is, I don't know.
Yeah, the cost goes up
this small
around each of the gears.
And this is what you get in return?
When you take the worker off, you get whatever the space says. Now, the spaces get more powerful along each one. And what happens is there is a start player token. Just before it gets round to the start player again, this turns 1. So all of the workers on the board have all moved 1 space onwards and have now got a more powerful ability. There's ways to affect the turn order. There is a way that you can turn this twice, which sometimes you will want to do, sometimes you won't want to do. And the game lasts for 2 years. So you start here, and then when you get round to this green spot here, you have to feed your people. And the temples, if you can increase your favour with the gods through various means, they pay out resources. When it gets round to the red mark, again, you feed your people, temples give out victory points. You go round to green again, same thing happens, round to red, end of the game. There are buildings within the game that I've not brought with me, but there are a load of buildings. So basically, you've got lots of different routes to victory.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of play testing going on of this over the next few months to balance everything. But I've played this quite a few times. It went down a storm at the Gathering of Friends in America. People look at it and look at the gears and go, oh, that's really interesting. But when they actually play the game, it's the kind of game that as soon as I played it, I wanted to play it again. Right, I know what I'm doing now. I'm going to try this because there's all sorts of different things going on.
What would happen if, when the cog moves, you're no longer in a space?
Well, the last 2 spaces on each cog don't have any symbols. Right.
Okay.
That means that when you are on the 6th and the 7th spot, you can actually choose to do any of the previous ones.
Oh, okay.
If you're on the 7th spot and it rotates, you lose it.
Right.
So you would basically not get yourself into that position.
Well, yeah. Presumably, the only way you could get there is if all your... You have to start.
You have to start on the lowest one.
Okay.
So there's an advantage to starting on the lowest one because it's cheap.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is you're then allowing the other players to go to the better ones.
Yeah. And so you judge, because it's only going to rotate once, possibly twice.
Each turn, yes.
Each player turn?
No, once so
it's
gone round the table,
you know you're going to, if you're on the 0, that you're most likely going to get either the 1 or the 2 space.
Yes.
Right, okay. Yeah. So you can sort of figure out where you're most likely going to end up.
Yeah. So there are things to do with your corn and with your resources. You can build buildings, you can get additional villages. There is a development track, like a technology tree, so you can advance up that, which means that your farming gets better, your agriculture. So there's all sorts of different mechanisms that work well together.
Cool. The seeing surface. Yeah.
And again, these are all prototype components from my other games. So.
In terms of paralysis analysis, you've only, on your turn, only got 5 possible spaces.
Even with teaching new players how to play the game, it's a 2-hour game. Okay, so it's not a long game. It's about an hour and a half once you've played the game. And because in your turn, you've only got 2 choices. You either put things on the board or take them off. And generally you can start to plan ahead for what you want to do. There's not much downtime in the game. Certainly when we've played this the times I've played this, turns have been very quick.
And it's how many players?
It's up to 4. We play 2, 3 or 4, and there are tweaks to the setup based on the number of players.
And everyone's sort of involved most of the time?
Yeah, just because your turns are very quick. You can be thinking ahead of what you want to do. You will work out where these are going to be.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
When are we releasing?
This will be Essen. This will be another one that will be ready just for Essen. Yeah, end of October it'll be released. Yep.
Okay. And the last thing.
This is Goblins Inc. This is a light, fun game. Although this is a new version. The version that I played in the Czech Republic. They've changed it this week, so I hastily got all these new things together. And what they've done is they've added a bit more depth to it. So it's a fun game where the players are goblins who are building gigantic robots that then fight each other. It's designed by Philip Neduk from Croatia, and he approached CGE last year and said, "Oh, I've got this game. Would you like to produce it?" And they liked it, so that's what they're going to do.
Giant robots fighting each other. What's not to like?
So each round of the game, there is a building phase and a combat phase. Now, the building phase, a lot of people have said, is similar to Galaxy Trucker, and although it's by
you all grab at
well,
the same
you
time,
don't grab at the same time, but you're placing pieces onto your robot.
Right. Okay.
But it's not the same designer, but you probably got some inspiration from that.
Fine.
So what happens is it's normally a team game. So it's a 4-player game normally.
Okay.
So me and you would be playing as a team.
Right.
Okay. And first of all, I would be the designer. So I would choose 5 of these at random. Okay. I would look at them, and I would give 2 to the other designer, and he would do the same.
Okay.
Then from the 5 pieces that I've got, I will then have to place them onto the robot. While I'm doing that, you're drawing 5 pieces, and you're swapping 2 with the other designer. So by the time I finish this, you've probably finished that. You then become the constructor while I become the designer. So it's a fast and frantic game. At the end of the building phase...
What's the air freshener do?
That's a decoration, At the end of the building phase, we will have a completed robot.
Right.
Okay. And like Galaxy Trucker, all the bits must be connected. So if you've
Okay.
built it
And it-
wrong,
yeah.
a bit will fall off.
Okay, done.
Okay. You then have the combat phase of the game, where
I mean,
you use-
it's fairly obvious to see what will connect because it's red.
it's red, yeah.
Yeah.
It's bits of rusted metal
Yeah.
need to touch. So when we go to combat, one of
Yeah.
us takes control of the movement. Made these yesterday, and one person takes control of the tactics.
Okay.
And you have some combat cards which come out. One player is deciding how they're going to rotate their robot and which side of the enemy robot they want to attack.
Right.
Now, you can't choose exactly which side. What you have to do is you want to say, I'm going to attack their front or I'm going to attack their right. So you have to actually think, well, how are they going to rotate? Well, all their weapons are on that side, so they're probably going to rotate like that. I want to hit him from there, so I need to be attacking his rear whilst also... Okay, now this is done simultaneously in secret, and there's a bit of guessing and bluffing and everything else. While at the same time, the tactician is choosing which of these combat cards to take.
Oh, okay.
And if both players choose the same one, then there is a sort of mechanism to decide who gets it.
Okay.
And then you roll lots of dice. So you add up the number of weapons that you've got, firing in the direction that you're firing.
Right.
You roll all the dice. Various abilities on these cards can modify the dice, increase them, allow you to re-roll them.
And that's all done through symbols,
Yep.
presumably.
Yeah, so it's language independent. And then basically, if you roll a 5, you've hit column number 5, so that destroys a piece.
Fair enough.
Okay? And if you destroy a piece...
I noticed there's no ones.
There's no ones, because
So
every time
ones
you
are
roll a
always a
1,
miss.
it's a malfunction.
Right.
And something on your own thing might blow up.
Okay.
Probably will blow up. Now, the way that the victory points work is quite clever. Each player has a stack of achievement cards.
Right.
Okay? And you draw 7 at the start of each round, but then before combat, you choose which 4 to keep.
Right.
And then after the robots have fought each other, each player reveals their 4 cards, which is what their objectives were. So although we're on a team, I've got my 4 cards, and you've got your 4 cards.
Right.
And these cards either give you points for destroying certain bits from the other player, or points if you lose certain bits. So you might find that the teammates are not necessarily working together, because I'm deliberately moving my robot to expose a weaker side, because I've got the point that every engine we lose, I gain a point.
Right, okay.
Okay, and you're thinking, why is he doing that? Okay, so the points are scored on these achievement cards, which are different for each player.
But you have to work together to a certain amount.
To a certain amount,
otherwise
yes.
You're going to fail.
Yep. But all the points are scored on the achievement cards.
Okay.
So
it's a team game that becomes competitive.
yeah, because the teams are decided randomly, so you draw a card at the start of each round to decide which players are on each team.
Fair enough.
So the teams will change in the second round of the game.
And how does it play with anything less than 4?
Yes, the 2-player game works fine as it is.
Right.
Except one player is doing all of the things themselves.
Right.
The 3-player game, there is going to be a 3-player game, but they're working on how the scoring is going to work for that.
Cool.
Didn't mention that you have to build your robot to a specific blueprint. So certain spaces you can't use each round. It just makes the robots a slightly different design. So,
cool.
yeah.
And we're going to see this one?
This one will be again ready for Essen.
Again?
CGE get all their games ready for Essen, so end of October.
So not that long.
Not that long.
Not
yeah.
that long.
Yeah.
Cool. And are you going to be demoing this?
Yeah, be demoing this all weekend. We've got a booth opposite the Games Law stand downstairs.
Cool. So anyone who's around, come down and check it out. And I think that's everything.
Yeah, that's the 3 games.
So thank you.
Brilliant.
And,
thank you for your time.
See you next time.
Okay.
I've been Chris Bowler for the UK Gaming Media Network, and we'll see you in a little bit.